He was like in intense anxiety. I mean, he was looking at, and I was talking to him, and he wasn't even listening. Finally turned around to me and he goes, I think I can do it. And I go, what? And he goes, well, I just don't think I can pay for the pants. He goes, I think I can do it with the tongs, but the pants is too much. I've got them on. I think I'm going to walk out. What do you think? And I went, all right, you know. So he pays for the tongs. We walk out the door. Immediately we get caught. Jayananda goes, oh, no, you know. We get in the room. Jayananda goes, I did it. He goes, I did it. I admit it. He goes, and the cops come, and the two cops are there, and he goes, look, officers, I'm a monk. It's God's money. I just couldn't spend it on myself. He goes, I've tried. I've had these pants for months now. He goes, I just couldn't do it, you know. It's too much. This $10 could buy 3 books, could feed 20 people. They could do, and I could spend it on myself. I said, because I just couldn't see it, you know. So they said, the cop, the other cop, and he goes, this guy's a saint. He goes, well, what are we supposed to do with him? So they brought him in front of the judge. The Jayananda explains the whole thing to the judge, and the judge says, the only penalty I can incur on this man is to pay for the pants he has taken. And the cop jumps out of his seat and he goes, I'll pay up! Let me pay up, Judge! And he got the 5. They were only a $10 pair of pants. So, you know, the cop gave 5 and Jayananda paid 5 and they squared it away finally. And then, in that way, it's like when Adi Keshava came to the movement, the way he came was the Rath Yatra crew was sitting underneath a tarp in San Francisco. And the tarp was slanted. And Jayananda was taking prasadam, and all the devotees were taking prasadam, and he was throwing bottles on top of the cart, on the tarp. They're bouncing off, and, Krishna! Jayananda was like watching, kind of the lot, and he went to one of the boys, he goes, like, well, go out and give this guy a plate of prasadam, you know? What's this guy doing? So this guy brought Adi Keshava a huge plate of prasadam, and Adi Keshava had no money at the time. He was like a young traveler. And he said he really appreciated the fact that he was getting something to eat. And when he sat down to eat it, he couldn't believe that he was throwing bottles on their tarp, and they sent him food out instead of trying to get it, tough with him. So he took the prasadam, and then he came back and he squashed plums or something for the nectar or the chutney for Rath Yatra. Jayananda had him squish all these plums together. So Adi Keshava was one of his first meetings with the devotees was with Jayananda. In all these different ways, Jayananda was always, he was always ready to go. He was like a devotee who was like a Minuteman. A Minuteman, you hear the raiders are coming, they were up and out on the horses. That's the way Jayananda was. He was like, when we slept at the carts, we had watches. And we'd keep watch, and, everybody would have their watch, and we carry a big metal pipe around in the middle of New York City. I was always scared to death, I had this big metal knife, walking around, chanting my rounds. People are pulling in this banded train lot, I'm thinking, oh boy, who's this, and then, so Jayananda, I'd always have to wake him up for his watch. It was different times. So this one night he was sleeping on about 12 pieces of plywood, and he was using a truck seat for a pillow. The thing was about this tall, it was hard as rock. He was sleeping on it like this. His head was at about a 90-degree angle. It was like in his clothes, no blanket. It was freezing cold, in the middle of the night. And I hated to wake him up, so I just said, just real quietly went over and said, hey, Jayananda. And he leapt up, started running around. He pointed at the plywood. He goes, Murali, get the saw, cut them in half, put them up with the plywood, get the 2-inch nails, get the collars, get the saw on them. They started going wild. I'm looking at him, I just chanted rounds for 2 hours. I'm like, I had about an hour's rest. I'm going, boy, we're starting early tonight. 1 o'clock, he's ready to go. I'm looking at him like this. And Jayananda looks at me, and he looks at his watch, and he goes, oh, it's 1 o'clock. It's my watch, right? I go, yeah, my watch. He goes, I was just thinking about something while I was sleeping, And then so in this way, even when he was sleeping, he was just like ready to go. One night, and he never got disturbed. One night I woke him up at 11 o'clock, I shook him. It's 11 o'clock, Jayananda. He sat right up and he went, 11 o'clock, bliss! And he went right back down, So I found sound asleep, and I was standing there thinking, what am I supposed to do now? So I woke him up again and said, Jayananda, 11 o'clock, it's time for your watch. And he goes, oh, all you did was tell me it was 11 o'clock. I thought you just let me know what time it was. You should have told me it was time for my watch. 11 o'clock bliss, you know. So, like, I just told him 11 o'clock, he was just like, anything was, you know, bliss, you know. It was 11 o'clock, thanks a lot for boo. Anybody else would have knocked my head off. But in these, he would always be like that, you know. He was always very encouraging. He would always encourage the most blundering thing he ever did. Like, he left me in charge of making a winch once. And I made this winch. It looked like a piece of modern art. I had just come from art school. Jayananda would always tease me about it, you know. So I made this winch. It was like, you know, it was crooked. And it had a whole different way of reeling itself. And I was really proud of it, you know. I said, here's the winch, Jayananda. I had it. And he goes, it's pretty artistic, isn't it? He goes, is this one of your art projects or what? And I was thinking, you know, but even though I did it wrong and everything, he made me feel good about it, you know. I felt great. Like, Jayananda, he make you feel good about everything, you know, everything you did. And he'd always make you feel like you were doing the whole project. He'd always say to me, man, if it wasn't for you, Dr. Mark, man, the whole thing would fall through. He'd go, you're really pushing this whole project down. And then he'd always ask your opinion on everything, you know. What do you think of this, and what do you think of that? And you know, he was always really humble. That's how he was so easy to relate to, because he was always putting himself down. If you ever tried to glorify him, he'd turn the whole thing around and glorify you until you were like, you know, on the ground, begging him to stop. And then right when you were begging him to stop, he just loaded on more. You know? But he did it in such a way where he didn't get puffed up. He just wanted to serve more. This is what his quality. Like if no one was working, he'd just get out there, and you'd see him out there in the teeming rain, you know. Like, it was one day, nobody was working. He came out, there was teeming rain. He was just out there, you know, with the material and the energy, you know, getting all these things together and the ropes and this. I remember they had this big pipe, and everybody was watching him on the docks, and everybody just went, "Let's go!" You know, everybody got out there in the rain and started helping him. You know, he had that quality of bringing out devotional service in people. People automatically wanted to help him do whatever he was doing. So even in his last days, Jayananda would always be working and doing things, and you know, he was pushing on the Rath Yatra in Los Angeles, and he had me come out there and help him there. And actually, when I came in the room, he said to me, he said, "Murali, there's a pie in the refrigerator. You pull it out, will you?" So I pulled it out. It was a strawberry cream pie, this huge pie. And I sat down, and he goes, "Finish it off." Like this. Finish it off. I said, "The whole pie?" He goes, "No, you want some?" He goes, "No, I can't eat it." He goes, "I want you to have the whole thing." And I tried to get out of it again. He goes, "Look, don't be bashful about prasadam now. Get into it." You know, so I said, "There you go." So I ate the whole pie, and you know. Then Jiva told me this one thing. Jiva had left the movement, was working in a meat-eating restaurant, and he was cooking. It was a packed Friday night one night. He was cooking steak, and he had a blood, you know, ridden, you know, apron on, and he heard this, "Hey, Jiva," and he said, "Jiva," you know. He turned around, Jayananda was there, and he said, "Jiva, it's good to see you." Jiva like went, Jayananda said, "I brought you some prasadam, let's eat it, let's honor it, eh?" So they sat down, they cleared out some tables right in the middle of the restaurant. They took a huge feast right there. So Jayananda was never, you know, seen, you know, like, you know, this devotee's bloop, that devotee's out of it, you know, or anything. There was one devotee, we had some trouble. We had some problem cases on the crew that year. Like, he was an expert at organizing cynics and bloopers and agnostics and atheists. Anybody who would work with him, you know. So in that year we had one guy, he was, you know, going out, and he would have a beer once in a while and come back, and Jayananda would go, "Well, you know, let's get back on the carts, you know, start working again." You know, he was willing to tolerate just about anything, but he would always just encourage you to do more and more devotional service. Like when I first came, you know, I was sitting next to Jayananda in class. And Jayananda and our crew, we were working, you know, 12, 13 hours a day, you know. And the sannyasi was up there, and it was a staunch year, 76 in New York. It was like all the brahmacharis, you know, there was about 150 of them, you know, it was 5 sannyasis giving out the sauce every day, 15 dandas, you know, it was like super powerful, you know. So this sannyasi was up there, and he was saying, "I don't want any space cases in the temple," and he was looking at everybody like this, you know, like my roommate at that time, I had this roommate, they made these cookies for Sankirtan. I walked in Jayananda sent me back to the temple for something, and I opened my closet door, and he was in my sleeping bag eating cookies in the dark at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I was thinking, oh boy, what's going on? So he gave this whole class, and I thought, geez, I'm not spaced out, He was giving the class, don't be spaced out, be engaged, and I was sitting there like this, I'm pretty good, I'm not spaced out. I'm looking around, at all the guys, like, I'm with Jayananda, and I thought I was pretty cool, and Jayananda was just sitting there, and he was really meditating on the class, and then we got up, and I was just about to say to Jayananda, good thing he wasn't talking about us, Jayananda? Something like that, I was just about to say something, and Jayananda looked at me and he goes, I'm the biggest space case in the temple. He goes, I can't believe it. He goes, if I could just get it together a little bit, because I could do something for Prabhupada. And I just thought, man, I'm thinking I'm not space. Jayananda's like 3 times as big, And he was thinking, automatically, he thought every class was for him. He sat in class, he never thought, this isn't for me, or I'm an older devotee. He just thought everything was for him, for Willing. He was, if the Bhakta said something to Jayananda, like, he'd go, you really think so? Well, maybe we ought to change it. What do you think? Remember the crew. He would take advice from, not that he was a fool, he would know exactly where to put a man, exactly where to encourage and where to chastise. But his chastisement was like a flower. It hit you, sometimes it hit you and knocked you off your feet, but it was like subtle. Like one time we were supposed to learn slokas for prasadam in the morning. And in the morning we'd all learn these Bhagavad Gita slokas, or we couldn't take prasadam. And I wasn't such a pandit. I would have a great difficulty with the slokas. I'd be trying to get them out. And this one day I decided to learn this really big, long one. Prove to everybody I could do it, And I was like, Yayamindina Namaste. I screwed it up so bad. He looked at me and he goes, where did you get that verse? He goes, you better just take prasadam. So I just took prasadam. I was thinking all day, oh boy, I really blew it, Jayananda Dasa, I really, felt bad. So later on in the day, I finally got it down. I went up to him in the middle of the day. So Jayananda, I got the verse down. He goes, oh yeah. So I got it out to him and he goes, that's a ticket. And he slapped me on the back and he goes, okay, let's go, And when I got to New York, I was just a regular guy. I thought, I was used to going to the Sunday feast and drinking all the sweet rice and having fun, So at 4 o'clock, I had this welding helmet, from art school. It had all these peacocks on it, stars and rainbows painted on it, So, and I looked at me like, he goes, boy, that's really something. He said to John Bhavan about 2 weeks after me and my brother worked with me, because these guys remind me of Leave It to Beaver, that show. These guys are too much, So anyways, I was working and I turned off my machine at 4 o'clock and I put my welding helmet on top of the machine. Said, 4 o'clock, time for the feast, It was my first day working with him. And Jayananda and John Bhavan got some huge railroad track. It was a piece of railroad track. They were sawing it in half and beating it with sledgehammers, and I was looking at him going, oh boy. So finally, I said, so Jayananda, it's 4 o'clock, we leaving now? He looks at me and he goes, leaving? He goes, no, we're not leaving. I go, well, he goes, where are you going? I go, to the feast. He goes, for what? I go, well, I thought I'd go, Looking up for shadow and, the guests and everything. He goes, no. He goes, you got it all wrong. He goes, we just work. I go, work? He goes, yeah, flip on your machine and keep welding. I went like this. Okay. So I said, then I lifted up my helmet and I said, Jayananda, do you think we should call the temple and say have a stage for shadow? He goes, no, don't worry about yourself all the time. So I put my helmet on, I was thinking the whole time while I was welding, no prasadam. This is so bad news,